Hello and welcome to my new YouTube channel called Terminal, which has been created to record my personal journey through 2026 and hopefully beyond, where I discuss and showcase living with terminal cancer. My goal with this channel is to create some awareness around living with cancer and hopefully show that you can still lead a fulfilling life even when your initial prognosis isn't very long. But let's back up a little first and introduce myself. I'll keep this down to a TLDR as best as possible. So, who am I? My name is Si Woolley. I'm 48 years old and I live in Weston-super-Mare. Brief life history. I served 4 years in the Irish Regiment from 96 to 2000. From there I moved into a very brief stint as a police officer and then moved into the control room as a civilian, where I served over 20 years across a couple of forces. Finished up working in IT as part of the RP8 automation team at Avon and Somerset, before being granted Tier 1 medical retirement in December 2024. Retiring before I was 50 was always a dream, but I really should have put some conditions on that one when I made that wish. So, how did this all start? Initially, it was innocuous stomachache. It went off a couple of months, I got a bit tired of it, went to the doctors. Some blood tests and stool samples showed traces of blood. That led to a colonoscopy where they initially diagnosed the diverticulitis, which was causing the stomachache, but then found the tumour in the upper right part of my bowel. Not a good day. But then that progressed. CT scans discovered it had spread to my liver, so then it's a stage 4 cancer, and eventually found out it had spread to both my lungs. So that then meant it wasn't curable, and all they could offer me was palliative care. My initial prognosis was 6 months without treatment, up to 2 years with treatment, but things are stable at the moment, so fingers crossed I've got a little bit longer than a couple of years to go. I'm not going to go into too much depth for now what the first few weeks were like, as I wrote a piece about that, which I will stick a link in the description below. But for now, I said things are stable. It's not spread much further. My cancer has been lovingly described by my consultant oncologist as a boring cancer. There's no mutations, enzymes, it's not an aggressive one, and for once in my life I will happily take boring. So what's the treatment like? So my initial treatment was an aggressive quadruple treatment called FOLFOXIRI, with the most impacted drug of that lot being called oxaliplatin. Which does come with some cracking side effects. The main one was something called neuropathy, where you get pins and needles sensation in your fingers and toes and a hyper cold sensitivity. The best way I've ever described it in your feet is like having sand in your shoes. Imagine going on a beach, getting your shoes full of sand and putting your feet in it, and the sand scrunches under your toes. That's how my feet generally feel. And your fingers feels like pins and needles, where your ends of your fingers are hypersensitive. With the oxaliplatin, it does come with extreme cold sensitivity, so even things like picking up cutlery burns your fingers, and don't even begin to ask about trying to get things out of the fridge or freezer. I was literally having to wear gloves to get things out of there. It is a strong drug, that one. It did really knock it out of me for those first few months, so I was glad when after I think 6 to 12 initial cycles of treatment, it was determined it had run its course and I no longer needed that one. I'm now off that, and I now have the triple combination, which is called FOLFIRI, which is folinic acid, fluorouracil and irinotecan. The treatments themselves come in 2-week cycles, so I have my treatment, I'll have a week where I'm generally recovering, and then I have what I call my good week after that. The treatments, I'm in the ward for about 4 to 5 hours having the initial drugs, and then I come away with a little bladder that's hooked up that slowly pumps the final drug into me over 48 hours. Once that, I've got about 11 days until the next round. So how the drugs are administered. So initially I was given a PICC line. PICC line goes in your arm, goes into the vein in your arm, feeds up around the top and through into your heart, allowing instant administration of the drugs. You may see people out and about with a bandage on their arm, which covers up the PICC and protects it. The initial PICC line it's a pain to shower in, you always have to cover it up. You have to go back into hospital to have the thing flushed every week, and there's a lot more upkeep and things required to keep it going. So because my treatment is just continuous, there's no really end date to it, I was allowed to have a port line put in. graft. Now that sits under the skin in my chest here. Small operation to do it, wasn't a problem at all. Then, because it's under the skin, I don't have to worry about showering or anything like that. When they administer drugs, they stick a needle in the middle of it, and then a tube from that little port line goes up above my clavicle into my jugular to my heart. Same principle, just a lot less upkeep. No longer needs any flushing, and it means that I can play golf and do any sports I want to do. So a lot more convenient. So one of the questions I do get asked quite a lot when people find out about my condition is, what are the side effects like? So mainly it consists of feeling wiped out. For the first few days after treatment, you are completely just knackered. It's like having flu. The way chemotherapy works is it attacks every active cell in your body. It doesn't discriminate. So once it attacks the cancer cells, it also attacks your active cells in your body. For me, this impacts my mouth, nose, stomach, and has a dramatic impact on my taste buds for those first few days. Unfortunately, there's no consistency to it, so one day I will love a bacon butty, another day it tastes like absolute garbage, which isn't fun. Doesn't last forever though. For me, it will probably can up to last a week, 8 days, and then it fades away. So then I'll have another week where I can actually taste things and feel a little bit better and have my good week. I've also totally lost my appetite as well. So that has been consistent since the beginning, which you'd think would be fantastic. 4 or 5 years ago, I'd have ripped your hand off for that. Somehow I've still managed to put weight on there. I don't know how I've managed to do that. So the only indication I tend to have whether I'm hungry is if I start to feel weak or if I'm thirsty, you might get dry lips. It's like basically having Manjaro for free. So there are some bonuses. So what's it like living with cancer? The big question. It comes as a fortnight of two halves. I'm not gonna lie, the first week does suck. After treatment, you're wiped. It's like having flu. You've got no energy. You've got some discomfort where the chemotherapy is attacking the active cells in your body and the cancer, and you're just wiped. For me personally, it's usually about 7 to 8 days. Then I enter what I've described before as my good week. And that is when I try to get as much done as I possibly can, be it housework, with my wife working full time, or going out and enjoying myself on the golf course. I always try and do something that I enjoy, because ultimately I'm only here now for a limited amount of time, and I need to make sure I get out there and do these nice things. This is where I believe I'm quite lucky, in the fact that I work for the police and they were fantastic. When I was diagnosed, they instantly gave me what's called Tier 1 medical retirement. That means I was able to retire on a full pension as if I was 67 years old. I've gotten a lump sum, and it's left me financially quite stable. With my treatments being blocks of 6, I have 2 lots of treatments, 24 to 26 weeks, and then I have 2 months off. During those 2 months off, my wife will book some time off work and we will try and get out and do some nice things. I'll throw some little shots up now, but we have done some enjoyable things. Been on a couple of cruises, been visiting different places, and playing lots of golf. Unfortunately, I'm not convinced my wife to start golf yet, but I'm still working on that one. As for treatment breaks, I'm on a break right now. My last treatment was on the 31st of December. I've now got 2 months off, and we are hitting my last thing that I've got on my bucket list, which is to go and see the Northern Lights. So in a couple of days, we're off to Tromsø, which is northern Norway, to hopefully go and see the Northern Lights. Fingers crossed we will get to see them. So what's my attitude and approach to all this? This is where things like positivity, the right support and perspective really come into their own. If you do read that Facebook blog post that I've linked, you'll get an indication of my initial approach towards this cancer, and it's not changed much since. People have called me brave. I don't see this as bravery because I have no choice in the matter. Courageous potentially, but not brave. The way I see it is like this. I've only got 2, 3, maybe 4 years left to go, maybe longer, on this mortal plane. And I don't want to waste that time. I would much rather use my time effectively, strike the right treatment and life balance, which initially took a while to get right. I had a few trips to the hospital, and I eventually wanted to strike that balance where I was able to do things I enjoyed in my good week whilst maintaining the cancer as it is. Now, no, I'm not going to get better. I'm not going to beat this. But what I do want to do is enjoy the time that I've got here whilst I can. With that in my mind, I'm not going to waste my time feeling sorry for myself. I'm not going to sit in a corner. It's a total waste of time. Now, don't get me wrong. I do have days where I just want to cry, and I do. It's a normal human reaction when you're going through something like this. But even when I'm going through those periods where I feel a little bit low, I remind myself that it's only a temporary feeling, and then the next day I will feel better. It's times like these where the right support is essential. Mine comes in the form of my incredible wife Amber, my parents just around the corner, and a few close friends who have really stepped up this past year for me. Each provides their own unique type of support. With my friends, they mainly just take the piss, but all are just as important. I couldn't imagine going through this alone, and I know that those who do go through something like this alone, there are support services out there. Luckily, I've not had to pull on them yet. They will eventually come into their own. People like Macmillan and hospice cares will become vital as I start to deteriorate, providing support not just for me but for my family as well. But for now, we're doing all right, and I'm doing all right as we are. And again, perspective. As previously mentioned, I do feel lucky compared to others I have met on the ward who are going through very similar to what I'm going through. I don't have job responsibilities anymore. I don't have young kids I need to explain this to and try and look after whilst going through this. But I also believe that most people should be able to pull some positives out of their lives to be able to help them go through a prognosis and a diagnosis like this. And I say, it's all just how you view it. There's always somebody who's worse off. And that's my quick introduction to living with cancer. I'm sure I've missed loads, and I'm not going to lie, I am not a natural talking to the camera. Hopefully I'll improve. I'm looking to produce and release these videos once a week where I will cover what's been happening in that past week, some of the nice things I've done, and my approach to treatments and how the side effects and how things are going. If you've got any questions, please drop them in the comments below and I will do everything I can to try and answer them. But for now, I will sign off and say good night. Cheers.